great week with you here on Facebook and YouTube. And we hope you've enjoyed all these lessons. If you're just now tuning in, you're kind of jumping around. You need to go back and start at the beginning. It's Captain America, Iron Man, Captain Marvel. We had the Hulk, and then Thor. Tonight, we're going to end it up with Eli Hurt, our youth minister, and he's going to be talking to you about Spider-Man and what that character means to you in your life. Thank you again for joining us this year on our Simpson County Youth Camp Virtual Camp 2020, and we look forward to seeing you back at Taylor Christian Camp the third week of June next year. Have a great night.
What's up, guys? It is so good to have you here today on what is unfortunately our last day of this virtual camp this week. Hopefully you've checked in every day this week and you've seen some pretty great and heard some pretty great devos from some of our Avengers here at church and some of our friends. By this point, we've had lessons from Kirby or Captain America. We've had lessons from Payne Arnie or Iron Man. We've had lessons from Miss Arnie, Captain Marvel. We've had lessons from Richie Spann as the Hulk. And we've had lessons from Nick Chandler as Thor. And I know that they've all done a great job. And I'm thankful for the opportunity to wrap up the week with you all today. The Avenger that I've been given to speak on is Spider-Man. I'm looking forward to delivering that message to you all today. Before we really get started into our lesson, I want to warn you, right? If you've not seen the two Spider-Man Marvel movies, if you've not seen Spider-Man Homecoming or Spider-Man Far From Home, one, what in the world are you doing with yourself this summer? And two, I would advise you to stop the video, right? Maybe watch those, take a peek at them, read the notes at least before you resume, because within these next couple minutes, I'm going to throw out a few spoilers, and I don't want to ruin the movie for you. So Spider-Man, right, he's awesome, right? His story begins as Peter Parker. He's a normal teenager at Midtown High School in New York City. Peter Parker's story begins when he is bit by a radioactive spider. He soon finds out that he's able to climb walls. He's able to spin webs. He has super strength. He has super stamina, agility, and he has spidey senses. He's a sophomore at Midtown High School of Science and Technology when he is discovered by Tony Stark, and he's invited to fight alongside the Avengers. Today I want to focus on a few of Spider-Man's strengths and talk about how we can use those strengths, how we can employ them in our daily walks as Christians. Perhaps Spider-Man's greatest strength is one that you won't find in his Marvel bio. It's one that's often overlooked in the Marvel universe and in our universe today. And that's the fact that, and the strength that I want to focus on first is his youth. Spider-Man was 15, I believe, in his first Marvel appearance when he's asked to join the Avengers in Civil War. But he's at an age that we can all kind of relate to. Most of us have been 15 or approaching 15, and it's a time in our lives that can be very exciting, but it can also be very scary. It's a time when we're busy and we're navigating through a lot of challenges. And I want us to know that Spider-Man, as a hero, faced, and as Peter Parker faced, many of those same struggles. Peer pressure, relationships. He had to keep his studies. So how did Peter Parker navigate the halls of his school, right? How did he maintain relationships with his friends? How did he keep a spot on his academic team at school? How did he find time to spend with maybe his girlfriend and maintain the role as Spider-Man in his community? How do we as Christians maintain, and teenagers in our schools maintain relationships with our friends? How do we keep up our studies, keep up our grades, keep our parents happy? How do we do those things that teenagers do? How do we participate in sports and extracurricular activities and live righteous and pure lives in the sight of God? Right? I want us to know that just because we're young, we don't get left off, or we don't get looked over in the eyes of God. There were many, we could call them Bible heroes or Bible Avengers, if you would. Many characters in the Bible that faced great challenges, that did great things at young ages. In 2 Kings chapter 2, we find a story of Josiah, who reigned as a king for 31 years, and Josiah took his position at 8 years old after the assassination of his dad. You can also read in the Old Testament about David, and we all know the story of David, who as a young boy killed both a lion and a bear, and then went on to face the giant Goliath. If we flip over to the New Testament in 1 Timothy, we know that Timothy was a friend of Paul, right? And Timothy would have been about 16 years old at his conversion, and as old as maybe 21 when he joined Paul on Timothy's first missionary journey. Paul and Timothy were such good friends that Paul writes to him in 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 12. He says, "Let no one despise your youth." We can translate that into, let no one look down on you because you're young, right? But be an example to the believers in word, in conduct, in love and spirit, in faith, and in purity. Right, so what that scripture tells me, right, is that just because I'm young, or just because I'm just in the youth group, doesn't mean that I don't have an obligation as a Christian, right, to be an example to those around me, to live righteously, and to be an example to those that I go to school with. Right, just because Spiderman was young when he was discovered by Tony Stark, he had the same obligations as an Avenger, right? When it came time for him to save the world, he had to answer. The second strength or superpower that I want to discuss with you guys that I get from Spider-Man is his spidey senses, or for our sake, I would want to call it awareness, right? Spider-Man develops these spidey senses that alert him when danger is near, right? He's able to calm his mind, he's able to focus, and he's able to see things almost before they happen, right? And as Christians, we need to have this same kind of awareness, especially as teenage Christians, right? Because we read in 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8, to be alert and of sober mind. Our enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour, right? As Christians at our schools, we face a roaring lion. Last year at camp, we talked about giants, and they come in many different shapes and sizes and all types of forms. And as Christians, we face giants of all different shapes and sizes. And when we go into schools, we have giants. The devil is looking for us there. He's disguised there in many different forms. Sometimes he looks like maybe a biology teacher. Sometimes he's disguised as a friend, someone that we can trust. If you've seen the movie, we know that Spider-Man's first adversary in the Homecoming movie was the Vulture, and the Vulture was Spider-Man's girlfriend's dad, right? In the movie Far From Home, Spider-Man befriends Mysterio, who then goes on to betray him, right? And so the devil is cunning. The Bible warns us of wolves in sheep's clothing, right? So we have to be careful. We have to use our spidey senses. We need to make good decisions about our friends, about the places that we're hanging out, right? If we know a situation, if we can sense that a situation could potentially lead towards sin or down a road that we're uncomfortable with, and that's something that we need to avoid. And we need to use our spidey senses or our awareness to take us away from those distractions. The next thing or superpower that I want to discuss with you guys is Spider-Man's suit. So Spider-Man alone, just your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, he's effective in the streets, but As the battles grow bigger and stronger and more dangerous, Tony Stark gifts Peter Parker with a brand new suit, one that is very much like his Iron Man suit. And we all know as superhero fans that with great power comes great responsibility, and this is a lesson that Peter Parker had to learn. If you've seen the movie, we know that Peter Parker loses focus. He loses track of his studies. He's leaving school early. He's skipping out on practices. He's dipping from out of clubs just so he can go and look for crime in the streets. And he's lost focus. And Tony Stark takes this suit away from him. As Christians, when we are baptized, we put on a new suit, a super suit, if you want to call it. In Galatians 2, verse 20, it reads, I have been crucified with Christ. Right? We put on Christ in baptism. It is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. The life I now live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and who gave himself for me. Right? When we put on that suit, when we put on Christ in baptism, there's a lot of power that comes with it. But with that power comes great responsibility. We have to be good stewards. As Christians, we have to be kind people as Christians, and we have to set good examples as Christians. Finally, and what I want to leave us with today in conclusion, when I think about Avengers and when I think about this week, I'm so thankful for the youth group that we have here at Franklin. I'm thankful for the opportunity to lead the group here, and I'm thankful for all those that participate and have participated. The Avengers, they all have unique powers. Just as Christians, we all have unique talents. You know, we were all made in the image of God, but we were made differently and uniquely. We all have different talents, different superpowers that we can bring to the table. And separate and apart, we're only so strong, but as a group, we can do great things together. In Matthew 18:20, we read that for where 2 or 3 gather in my name, there I am also. Right? And it's so great that we have the resource that we have here at Franklin. And it's so awesome to think that maybe your superpower isn't strength. Maybe you don't have the strength to get through the breakup, or you don't have the wisdom of Iron Man to make this decision. But there's someone in our group, hopefully, that has, right? Or there's an Avenger that you can call on that does have that strength, and we can use each other and we can work off each other's strengths and abilities. And I think that is a wonderful thing. I'm thankful for all of you guys, and I hope that you've enjoyed this week. I look forward to seeing you guys again, and it's been a pleasure speaking to you today. Thank you so much.
Spins a web any size, catches thieves just like guys. Look out! Here comes the Spiderman.
Did you stop it?
Yeah.
You did it? You didn't stop the
Oh,
video.
my man.
Spidey senses are tingling.